You have started reaching out to members of families who were affected by your father's violence, right? Can you?
Yes, many of them.
So, how did you? I think there's some significance behind your initial attempt to reach out to the Cali Cartel. What was your intention behind that, and how did that go?
Well, it was very hard for me when I realized that my father wasn't there anymore, and everybody wanted me dead because, of course, I reacted very violently, and the cartels were worried because I promised vengeance and something like that. So they called me and they forced my family, my mother, and everyone to stay in a negotiation where we were, you know, forced to give everything we inherited from my father, everything. And I mean, you know, the only thing they didn't take out it was the clothes we have because we gave everything: helicopters, motorcycles, apartments, lots, and properties, and work of art, everything we have. And they told us, if you hide one coin, we kill you. And they knew everything because they were partners of my father's in the past. So they knew everything, even more than the authorities. So um, finally, in my second book, I thank my father's enemies for allowing me to have that meeting with them because they let me stay with my life, and it was a big decision for them. And this it was a big decision because they were, if they kill me, they were taking any chances, so they will be sure that nobody will avenge my fathers. But they wanted to give hope to their sons too, and they said once they something like this happened to our sons, we wanted to be we want people to respect them, and so that this is why we are respecting your life, and you have to promise that you will never be involved in the drug trafficking business. They told me that in a meeting in Cali, in the city of Cali in Colombia, and they told me we are going to let you leave, but we are going to condemn you to be poor because if we leave you with $1 million or any kind of money, you will kill everyone. So this is why I thank them, because they truly gave me the opportunity to start over from scratch, having nothing in my life. Because if they truly allowed me to stay with something that I inherited from my father, for sure that I could, committed a lot of mistakes. But being without anything, that really gave us, a fresh start for us in our lives. So this is why and how I ended up contacting Mr. William Rodriguez-Habadiya, who's the son of Miguel Rodriguez, the head of the Cali Cartel. And I don't know how, but very, very fast we became very close friends. And we should be the worst enemies, because we should hate each other in the worst possible ways you could ever imagine, because this is how we were raised. We were raised to hate, to damage the enemy, and have no compassion for anyone. So, but we choose a different life. We choose to continue with our past, not dishonoring our fathers, but we don't have to honor our fathers. Continuing with the path of violence they already, they already walked through. So for me, and having William today as a close friend, it's a miracle for sure. That's something that shows that reconciliation and forgiveness could be achieved without any excuses, no matter how much violence we suffer between human beings and families and countries and authorities. This could be solved through forgiveness, and forgiveness is not about forgetting things. It's not that. Forgiving is about healing. It's about letting the pain go out, because if you don't forgive, the pain stays with you and it makes you sick, and it brings hate and vengeance and very bad feelings and negative feelings to your life. So you cannot move on. And this is how we started a process even before Williams, with my father's victims, because I wrote a letter and I asked publicly their forgiveness. because I wasn't happy because of my father's actions against them. I was truly aware that this needed to be solved in a way, and I knew, of course, that I wasn't responsible for the criminal actions of my father, but I took moral responsibility for that because I wanted to put an end.
Do you think that they also held some kind of animosity for you, even though you weren't directly responsible? Do you feel like they kind of harbored some of that resentment towards you for those killings before you reached out?
Well, I was totally surprised, because I was expecting exactly that. But, every single victim that I have in contact with, they told me that I'm not responsible, and they know that, but they are truly grateful for the things that I said, and they told me that how should I say this? They are totally happy to see that even if I'm not responsible for the criminal actions of my father, I am taking that responsibility, and I am allowing them to know the truth behind the violence they suffer, and I am giving a message of hope and awareness to the youngest, so they will never repeat my father's story. That's the most important thing we should do, and it's not only about asking for forgiveness, but making people aware that this is not just another Netflix show that is so successful and is such a good life. Because if you see my father's life and how he's being portrayed in Netflix, you will see that a lot of people will say, "Hey, I want to be like my Pablo Escobar because if that's the kind of life I'm gonna live, it's a good life." But that's not the reality we live. My father didn't have the opportunity to hide and to run away while he was, staying in 7-star mansions. That never happened. He was having a lot of money, but living as the poorest man on earth. So that's a big contradiction. I feel richer today. I have perhaps, 0.0001% of the wealth that my father earned. Yes, but I feel richer than him because I have freedom. Because I can walk and I can cross the street and buy a piece of bread and that's it. Perhaps I cannot buy caviar, but who cares, man? I'm free, and that's not all the money in the world can pay for your freedom.